The key fit the lock, but the door hadn't been opened in 100 years. In Venice, every door had a story, but behind this door, there was silence. Too much silence. So much that she couldn't even hear the canal water anymore. When she put her hand on the handle, the metal was warm. Maybe the sun had hit it, but the sun had set. So where was this warmth coming from? The key was old, brass, heavy, rusted. But when it entered the lock, it slid like it was oiled, made no sound. An antique thing shouldn't work this easily. The mechanism was 100 years old. It should break. It should stick. But it was working. The door was green. Faded green. Sea moss green. That damp, darkened green she saw on Venice's walls. Paint had peeled in places, wood showing through, cracked, aged. But it was solid. When she pressed her hand against the door, she felt a vibration. Light, very light, as if a machine was running behind the door, or as if a heart was beating. The alley was narrow, maybe 2 meters wide. Marble walls rose on the right and left. Windows were closed, shuttered. No one lived here anymore. This was a forgotten corner of Venice. The places tourists didn't go, not even on the map. But she had found it, because she'd been searching. She'd been researching for 3 days. In archives, libraries, old maps. A garden. The records said Giardino del Sogno. Dream garden. Built in 1685, closed in 1723. Why had it been closed? The records were vague, inappropriate, some said, not safe, in others. Must be forgotten, in one. Must be forgotten. Strange word. Why should a garden be forgotten? But now she was here, in front of the door, key in hand, the key the old archivist had given her. "Don't use this key," the man had said. He was old. His eyes were cloudy. His hands trembled. Some doors should stay closed, Signorina. But he'd given her the key. Why? Because you're an architect, and architects need to know why some things shouldn't be built. Now she understood what he meant, or didn't understand. Her fingers rested on the cold metal handle. For a moment, she did not move. The canal behind her whispered softly, as if warning her, or welcoming her. Some doors are never meant to be found. And yet, you are here. If you feel drawn to hidden places like this, to forgotten gardens and quiet dream stories, you may subscribe. So this gate will open for you again. She takes a slow breath, and gently, she'd put her hand on the handle. She turned it. Click. The lock opened. The door didn't move. It needed to be pushed. But she didn't dare push, because a sound was coming from inside. No, not a sound. Silence. But that silence was so dense, so full, as if it contained things. She breathed in. Venice air was salty, humid, smelled of the sea. But now there was another smell. Flowers. What flower she didn't know. Fresh, sweet, but old. As if the scent of a flower cut 100 years ago still hung in the air. She pushed. The door slowly opened. Hinges made a sound, a low moan, then stopped. half a meter open. She didn't push more, because she'd seen the garden. But how could it be? The alley was narrow, 2 meters. Walls were high. Behind the door there should be another wall, or a small courtyard, 5 square meters at most. Venice was like this, narrow, cramped, interlocking buildings. But inside there was a garden, a large garden, very large. Her eyes must be deceiving her. It wasn't possible. But she was seeing it. There were trees, tall, wide, leafy, plain trees. Mulberry, she couldn't identify them. Their branches had intertwined, forming a canopy, light filtering through them, golden green light. There were paths, graveled, winding. There were flowers, colorful, species she didn't recognize. There was a fountain in the center, marble. She could hear the flowing water. But the strangest thing was that time had stopped. Outside it was evening. The sun had set. But in the garden it seemed like afternoon. The light was bright, warm, but there were no shadows, or they were very faint, as if the sun was everywhere. She took a step, crossed the threshold, stepped from wooden floor to stone floor. The air changed. Outside it was cold, humid. The canal breeze existed. Inside it was warm, dry, but not suffocating. Just different. Like a different season. Like a different place. She turned around. The door was still open. The alley was visible. Dark, narrow, real. But it seemed strange now, as if from here, outside was unreal. Yet it should be the opposite. She looked at the fountain. It was close, maybe 10 meters. She could walk. The gravel made sound under her feet. A familiar sound. A safe sound. There was always gravel in gardens, but these gravels were very neat, very clean, as if swept every day. But no one lived here. No one had entered for 100 years. She stopped in front of the fountain. It was marble. White marble, yellowed but elegant. In the center was a statue. A woman, young, beautiful, holding a bowl in her hands. Water flowed from the bowl, pouring into the basin. Clear, clean water. She reached out, touched the water. It was cold, very cold, but fresh, as if coming from a spring. There was something in the basin, not a reflection, a leaf, a white leaf, floating in the water, motionless. But there was no wind. How had it fallen? From which tree? She looked up. The trees were far away. This leaf couldn't reach here. She took the leaf, held it over the water. It was light, wet, but not wilted. It was fresh. The veins were visible, thin, intricate, perfect. She heard a sound behind her. Not a footstep sound, not a breath sound either. Just a presence. The feeling that someone was there. She turned. A man was standing in the distance, among the trees. He was old. His hair was white. His clothes were old, earth-colored. In his hand was a pair of scissors, garden shears. Their eyes met. The man didn't smile. But he wasn't frightening, just waiting, as if he knew her, as if he knew she would come. She opened her mouth to speak, but words didn't come, because the man shook his head, not saying no, saying not yet. Then he turned and walked into the trees, disappeared. The leaf in her hand trembled. There was no wind, but the leaf was trembling. The leaf remained in her hand, white, wet, real. She wasn't going crazy. She wasn't hallucinating. This garden was real. The man was real. All of it was real, or none of it was. But did it matter? She put the leaf in her pocket, carefully, gently, as if it might break. Then she walked away from the fountain. Steps were slow, not in a hurry, because she knew she had to follow the man, but she was afraid. She didn't know why, but she was afraid. The path curved. The gravel continued, neat, clean. On both sides were flowers, low shrubs, tall grasses, colors, purple, white, yellow, pink. What flowers were they? She couldn't identify them. Some seemed familiar, but she couldn't remember their names. Some she'd never seen. Maybe they didn't exist anymore. Maybe they were species that had ended 100 years ago. The trees were thickening, branches were approaching each other, shadow was deepening. But it wasn't dark. Light still filtered through, greenish, soft. Leaves were moving, slightly, as if breathing. She heard a bird sound, high-pitched, short, then it stopped. What bird was it? She didn't know. There weren't many birds in Venice. There were gulls. There were pigeons. But this sound was different. A smaller bird. A sweeter sound. The path widened. She came to a clearing. An oval area. In the center was a bench. Stone, worn, moss-covered, but it looked solid. Behind it was a tree, very old. Its trunk was thick, bark cracked, gnarled. Its branches spread wide, like an umbrella. The man was sitting on the bench. He'd put his shears beside him. His hands were on his knees. He was looking at her, eyes open, calm, waiting. "Enter," he said. His voice was low, cracked, old, but kind. His Italian was fluent, but archaic, old-fashioned, as if learned a century ago. She began. "I know," the man said. "You're an architect. You came searching. You found." How did he know? Who are you? The man smiled, for the first time. Slight, wrinkled, melancholic smile. "I'm the gardener," he said. "I've always been the gardener. I've always been here. But this garden is closed. For 100 years. I know. Then how are you here?" The man shrugged. "Gardens wait," he said. "Someone must wait too. I waited. I'm still waiting." It didn't make sense, but she didn't argue, because here, in this garden, logic worked differently. She felt this. Everything was slow, soft. The rules of reality didn't apply. She approached. Slowly, toward the bench. The man didn't move, just waited. She stopped a few steps away. "Why was it closed?" she asked. "The garden." "Why doesn't anyone come in?" The man took a deep breath. "Because they wanted to forget," he said. Remembering was painful. This garden was full of memories. Good memories, bad memories, all were here, and people couldn't bear it, because here time stopped. Outside, everything changed, but here everything stayed. The same, never changing. She looked around. Flowers, trees, fountain, all were staying, moving but not changing. She understood now. This garden was a photograph, a moment, frozen, preserved, hidden. "Who wanted this?" she asked. "Who created this garden?" The man gestured to the tree with his hands. "She created it, the Countess. I don't remember her name anymore, but I remember her face. Young, beautiful, melancholic. She'd lost someone, her husband, her son, I don't know, but she'd lost, and she couldn't forget. So she created this garden, put memories here, every flower a memory, every tree a memento, every stone a word." He walked toward the fountain, stopped, stroked the edge with his finger. "This fountain," he said, "the first kiss. This tree, the last goodbye. This bench, the waiting." It was like poetry, but sad poetry, because everything had been left behind. Everything had ended. But here, in this garden, it still lived. Are you a memory too?" she asked. The man looked at her. There was something in his eyes. A light, maybe tears, maybe something else. "Maybe," he said, "maybe I'm a memory too. Maybe I'm not real. Maybe I'm just part of the garden. Because it's been so long, and sometimes I forget what's real, what's imagined. But does it matter? Did it matter?" She sat on the bench, not next to him, on the opposite side. Left distance, but close. The man didn't frighten her anymore, just saddened her. Deep sadness, centuries of sadness. "Why were you waiting for me?" she asked. "Because you would come," the man said. "I knew someone always comes, after a long time. But they come, because the garden calls, the forgotten, the lost, the seekers. You came seeking. The garden heard you." She felt the leaf in her pocket. It was warm, beating like a pulse. No, she was imagining. Leaves don't pulse. But she still felt it. "What should I do?" she asked. The man stood up, took his shears, began to walk. Slow, confident steps. Stopped, looked back. "Walk," he said. "See the garden. Know the memories. Maybe you'll recognize one. Maybe one of your memories is here too. People come, leave something, go, but the garden holds. The garden keeps, forever." She followed him. The path narrowed, trees thickened. Branches passed over her head. She reached out, touched the leaves. They were soft, cool, wet, Was it dew? Could there be dew in the garden? If time had stopped, would night come? She didn't know. They came to a gate, small wooden, half open. Beyond was another garden, smaller, more cramped, closer. Like a vegetable garden, greens, herbs, earth smell. What is this place? She asked. This is the beginning, the man said. Every garden has a beginning. The first seed, the first sprout, the first hope. This is it. The Countess started here, planted a sapling. It grew. The garden grew. Memories grew. But the root is always here, always in this soil. He knelt. The man touched the earth. His hands were old, cracked, full of soil, but gentle. He stroked the earth as if it were alive. The earth knows everything, he said, holds everything. You too will return to earth one day. We all will. But don't fear. Earth is good. Earth is peace. He stood up. Come, he said. I need to show you something. They walked. Deeper. The garden was changing. There were no flowers now, only trees. Tall, old, silent trees. Shadow was deepening. Light was fading, but not frightening. Just calm, tranquil, peaceful. She saw a wall, stone, high, worn. Was it the end of the garden? No, because there was a hollow in the wall, small, dark, depth uncertain. The man stopped, pointed to the hollow. Look here, he said. She approached, bent down, looked into the hollow. It was dark, but then her eyes adjusted, and she saw there was a book, old, leather-bound, yellowed pages, and a letter, folded, sealed, unopened. What is this? She asked. This is a memory, the man said, older than even the Countess's. Someone else's. Maybe yours. Maybe mine. I don't know. But here, waiting, to be opened, to be read, to be remembered. She reached out. Her fingers touched the book. Leather was cold, but inside was warmth, as if the book were alive. Should I take it? The man shook his head. Not yet. First you must see all of the garden. Then decide. Take or leave. Both are right. Both are wrong. The choice is yours. She pulled back. The book remained there, in the darkness, waiting. And they walked deeper, to the heart of the garden. As they walked, the garden changed. It was no longer orderly. Paths confused, intertwined, disappeared. Gravel had decreased. Earth emerged. Roots, stones. The garden was becoming wild, but beautiful. A different beauty. Uncontrolled, unleashed beauty. The man walked ahead, never tired. His steps were regular, never changed. The shears were still in his hand, but he wasn't using them, just carrying them, as if they were a friend, as if they were a memory. He stopped at a sound, water sound. Not the fountain, larger, more widespread. A stream. But there were no streams in Venice, only canals, stagnant waters, salty waters. The man looked at her. "Do you hear it?" he said. "Yes, water sound. This is the garden's heart," he said. "Come." The path opened, trees thinned, and she saw. There was a pool, large, oval, a small island in the center. On the island was a tree, willow. Its branches hung over the water, leaves touching the surface, moving slightly. The water rippled. But there was no wind. She stopped at the edge of the pool. The water was clear, very clear. The bottom was visible. There were stones, mosses, maybe fish. No, no fish, no living things. Only water, only reflection. She saw herself in the water, her face, her hair, her eyes. But different. As if younger. No, her age was the same, but more light, as if she'd left a burden, as if she'd forgotten something. "The water has a property," the man said. He was standing beside her, looking at the pool. "It shows truth, or hides truth. Both are the same thing sometimes. I don't understand. Soon you will." She looked at the island. The willow stood, motionless, but alive, very alive, as if the tree were breathing, as if its trunk were expanding, contracting. "How do you get there?" she asked. The man smiled. "By walking," he said. "But there's water. The water is shallow, comes to your knees. You can walk, if you want. Should I go?" "I don't know. Do you think you should?" She thought, why would she want to go? What was on the island? A tree, just a tree. But a voice was coming from inside. "Go," it said. "You must see." She took off her shoes, her socks, gathered her skirt up, entered the water. It was cold, very cold. But as she progressed, it warmed. The water came to her knees. The soles pressed on stones, slippery but solid. She walked, slow, careful. Water sound was in her ears, light, calm, repeating. She reached the island, climbed out. The earth was soft, wet. Her feet sank. She stood at the base of the willow. The tree was large, very large. She looked up. Branches had covered the sky, but the sky wasn't visible anyway. Only leaves. Green, wet, endless leaves. She touched the tree. The bark wasn't hard. It was soft, warm. The tree was warm. Why was it warm? Trees were cool. But this was warm, beating like a pulse. No, she was imagining. Trees don't pulse. But she still felt it. She saw something at the base of the tree. Something carved. Letters. Italian. Old Italian. She could read it with difficulty. Qui dorme il cuore. Here the heart sleeps. Heart? Her knees trembled. She sat, leaned against the base of the tree. Bark touched her back. Warmth spread to her body, her chest, her heart. She closed her eyes and saw a woman, young, beautiful. She wore a black dress. She was crying, sitting at the base of the tree, head buried in her knees. Her hands trembled. Her shoulders shook. There was no crying sound, only silence. Deep, painful silence. Beside the woman was a man, young, handsome, holding something in his hand. A ring, gold, single stone. He extended it to the woman, but the woman didn't take it. She shook her head, said no. Again and again, no. The man left the ring at the base of the tree, in the earth. He buried it, dug with his hands, buried it, covered it. Then he got up, left, didn't look back. The woman stayed, cried, for a long time. Then she too got up, entered the water, walked, crossed to the other side, left, never returned. But the ring stayed, buried, waiting. She opened her eyes. She was breathing fast. Her heart was pounding. What had she seen? Dream, memory, someone else's memory. The Countess's. No, older because the tree was younger in that memory. Smaller. So it had happened long ago, hundreds of years ago, maybe more. But the ring, was the ring still here? She bent down, felt the earth. It was soft. She dug with her fingers. There were roots. There were stones. Then, metal, hard, cold metal. She dug. She pulled it out. The ring, gold, darkened but still shining. On it, a single stone, red. Ruby? Faded but still holding light. She held it in her hand. It was heavy, very heavy. Not just the weight of metal. Another weight. The weight of words. The weight of choice. The weight of saying no. Why had the woman said no? Didn't she love the man? Or did she love him too much? Sometimes love was saying no, not yes. Sometimes letting go was harder than holding on. She stood up, put the ring in her pocket, next to the leaf. Two memories. One found, the other dug up. Both were heavy. She entered the water again, walked back, crossed to the other side. The man was waiting. He hadn't changed. As if no time had passed. Maybe it hadn't. "Did you find it?" he asked. "Yes." "Good. Now we can continue." "Where to?" "To the end," the man said. "To the end of everything. Or the beginning. Both are in the same place." They walked. The garden was becoming even wilder. There was no path now. Only earth. Grasses, weeds, thorns. Trees had thickened. Trunks were giant. Roots coiled on the surface, intertwined. They came to a structure. Small, stone, half-ruined. Was it a chapel? A tomb? It had no door. Only an entrance, dark, depth uncertain. The man stopped. "This is the end," he said. the Countess's end. She locked herself here. Years passed. No one saw her. Only I entered, brought food, brought water. But she didn't speak, just sat, looked at the walls, at the ceiling, at nothing. What happened to her? She forgot how to remember. Because it was too heavy. She couldn't carry it, so she left it. Everything. Finally, herself, too. Did she die? The man shook his head. No, she just disappeared. One morning I entered. She wasn't there. But her body wasn't there either. Only an empty room, as if she'd never been there. Where did she go? The man looked at the garden, at the trees, at the flowers, at the earth. To the garden, he said. The garden took her, because the garden was hers. She was the garden. They weren't separate anymore. They merged. Forever. She looked inside. It was dark, but not frightening. Just gallant. Very silent. Should I go in? If you want. Won't you come? No. This place is yours. Only yours. I'll wait outside. She took a step, crossed the threshold, stepped from stone floor to earth. Darkness enveloped, but her eyes adjusted. Walls were visible. Stone, bare, no decoration. Ceiling was low. In the center was a stone. Square, flat, simple. A tombstone? She approached, knelt down, looked at the stone. There was no writing, no name, no date, just an empty stone. But there was something on it. A flower, dry, wilted, old, but still recognizable. Rose, white rose. She reached out, touched the flower. It crumbled. Petals scattered in the air, fell to the ground, disappeared. And she heard a voice, a woman's voice, whisper, very old, very tired. Grazie. Thank you. She said nothing else. Just that word. Then silence. Her eyes filled. She didn't know why. She didn't know the Countess, had never seen her, but she felt it. Her pain, her loneliness, and now her release. She stood up, walked back, went outside. The man was waiting. Is it finished? He asked. Yes, it's finished. Then come. There's one more place. Then you'll decide. Decide what? Whether you'll stay or go, the man said. Whether you'll stay in the garden or return outside. Both are possible. Both are real. The choice is yours. They walked, one last time, to the deepest parts of the garden, to the darkest place, to the quietest place. And they came to a mirror, large, oval, in an old frame. The glass was cracked, but it still reflected. Look, the man said. She looked and saw herself, but she also saw someone else. A little girl, maybe 7 years old. Her hair was long, her eyes were large. In her hand she held a notebook, sketch notebook, full of pencils, colored pencils. The girl was looking at her from the mirror, but she wasn't speaking, just looking, and in her eyes was a question. "Do you remember me?" She remembered, because that girl was herself, her 7-year-old self, the little girl who loved to draw, who dreamed, who looked at architecture books. "When I grow up, I'll make gardens," she used to say. "Beautiful gardens, gardens where people are happy." But then she'd forgotten. She'd grown up, went to school, worked, got tired, and the dream had shrunk, had become realistic. "Gardens don't pay," they'd said. "Build buildings, be practical." And she'd become practical. But she was unhappy. The girl was still looking, waiting for an answer. She opened her mouth. "I remember," she said. "I remember you. And I'm sorry for forgetting you, for forgetting your dream." The girl smiled for the first time. Then she slowly began to fade, blurred, disappeared. In the mirror remained only her own reflection, the woman in her 40s, tired, but now lighter, as if she'd left something, a weight, a burden. The man put his hand on her shoulder. "Now you're ready," he said. "Ready for what?" "To decide." They walked back, but the path was different, shorter, or longer. She didn't know. Time didn't carry meaning here, only steps existed. One, the next, the next. Each step was a breath. Each breath was a step. They'd merged, not separate anymore. Walking was breathing. Breathing was walking. The garden was changing. Slowly, carefully, returning from wildness to order. Grasses decreasing, flowers multiplying, colors brightening. As if the garden were breathing, relaxing. The place with thorns had been left behind. Now there were only soft leaves, grasses. Thin, green, bright grasses. Silent under feet. No gravel sound anymore, only soft earth. Earth like a pillow. The man wasn't speaking anymore, just walking. He'd left the shears. Where had he left them? She didn't remember. Maybe on the bench. Maybe at the fountain. It didn't matter anymore, because everything was slowing. Her steps, her breath, her heart, her thoughts. Slow, very slow, as if walking through honey, as if underwater, but not suffocating, comfortable, because slowness was beautiful. Not hurrying was beautiful, just being, just existing, just walking was beautiful. The light was changing. She'd noticed but hadn't thought about it. Now she thought. It had become softer, warmer, more golden, as if evening were coming. But which evening? Today's? Yesterday's? Tomorrow's? Shadows had lengthened. Tree shadows, long, thin, intermingled. They'd formed lines on the ground, dark and light lines. They were dancing, slightly, as if there were music, but there was no music, only silence, deep, soft silence. They returned to the fountain. It felt familiar. Water was still flowing, clear, clean, endless, flowing with the same rhythm, never changing, never tiring, as if coming from an infinite source. Maybe it was. Maybe the garden's heart was a source, an infinite source. She looked at the basin. The surface was still, like a mirror, reflecting the sky. There were no clouds, only blue, clear, clean, infinite blue. Was the white leaf still there? No. It had gone, or she'd taken it. She didn't remember. She put her hand in her pocket. The leaf was there. The ring was there. 2 memories, 2 weights. But they didn't feel so heavy anymore. Just, were there. Parts. Parts of the garden. Parts of time. Her fingers touched the leaf. It wasn't dry. Still moist. Still soft. As if just fallen. But when had it fallen? Hours ago? Centuries ago? They returned to the bench under the old tree. The tree was large, very large. Its branches had spread wide, had formed shade, cool, dense shade, but inviting, restful. The man sat. He seemed tired for the first time. Until now, he'd never tired. But now his shoulders had sagged. His head had tilted forward. His hands rested on his knees, motionless. She sat beside him, close. This time she didn't leave distance, because she wasn't afraid anymore. The man wasn't dangerous, just tired, very tired. The wood wasn't hard. It had softened over time. Moss had grown, green, velvety moss. She touched it, moist, cool, soft, pleasant. "How long have you been here?" she asked. Her voice was low, like a whisper. She didn't want to disturb the garden, because the garden was resting. She felt this. The garden was tired. Beautiful tiredness. End of day tiredness, the man thought, for a long time. His eyes were distant, looking at memories maybe, or at nothing. "I don't know," he said. "Very long. Maybe 100 years. Maybe more. I didn't track time, because here there's no time. Only seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. But they're mixed too. Sometimes all at once. Sometimes none." He spoke the words slowly. Between each word was a breath, a waiting, as if the words needed to rest. "Weren't you lonely?" "I was lonely, but the garden was there. The garden was enough, because the garden is alive. Trees, flowers, earth, all alive, all speaking. If you listen, you hear." She listened, opened her ears, emptied her mind, and heard rustling of leaves, very faint, as if whispering to each other, sharing secrets, old wheat secrets. Whisper of flowers, even fainter, almost inaudible, but there, present. Petals were moving, with invisible wind, or with breath, with their own breaths, breath of earth, deep, very deep, coming from underground, from roots, from stones, from the depths of time. A regular breath, slow, calm, as if the earth were sleeping, with comfortable sleep, song of water. This was the clearest, coming from the fountain, drops falling into the basin, creating rhythm, monotonous but beautiful, repeating but not boring, soothing, sleep-inducing, all together, and harmony, slow, calm, infinite harmony. Beautiful, she said. Her voice broke. Her throat had knotted. Why? She didn't know. Maybe beauty sometimes made you cry. Silently made you cry. Yes, beautiful, but lonely, because beauty is more beautiful when shared. But here there's no one, only me. And I'm tired now. She looked at him, really looked. For the first time, looked carefully. His face was pale, full of lines, deep lines, time's lines. Each line may be a year, or 10 years, or 100 years. His eyes were cloudy. Were they blue? Gray? Color had faded. Only a tone remained. Pale, tired tone. His hands trembled, slightly, constantly, as if there were a tremor coming from the body's depths. Unstoppable. He was an old man, very old. Maybe older than he should be old. Maybe beyond time old. You can rest, she said. Her voice was low again, but this time warmer, closer, compassionate. I know. But if I rest, who will watch the garden? Maybe the garden no longer needs a keeper. The man smiled, melancholic but beautiful smile, lips curved, eyes softened. For a moment, he'd looked young, very young, as if centuries had melted. Maybe, he said, maybe you're right. Maybe the garden can take care of itself now, because the garden is wise. The garden is old, older than me too. There was silence, long silence, but not disturbing, just full of thoughts, feelings, memories. The wind blew lightly for the first time. Until now there was no wind, but now there was, very light. It moved her hair, touched her cheeks. It was warm or cold. She couldn't distinguish, just was there. Leaves rustled, a bit louder, as if waking, stretching. She looked at the sky. Light was changing, softer, more golden. Was it evening? Morning? She didn't know. Maybe both. Maybe neither. There were no clouds. Only color. Blue, gold, pink. Mixed together. Separated from each other. Colors were dancing. Slow, graceful dance. Have you decided? The man asked. His voice was lower now, almost inaudible, as if it were part of the wind. Decided what? Will you stay or go? She thought for a long time. Words formed in her mind, dissolved, formed again. Staying would be beautiful. Here, in this garden, outside of time, away from the world, peaceful, calm, safe. Mornings listening to the fountain water, afternoons sitting in the tree shade, evenings breathing the flower scents, nights watching the stars. If there were stars, not getting tired, not hurrying, just being, just existing, just breathing. But this was escape, wasn't it? Real escape, getting lost among memories, like the Countess, remembering to forget, or forgetting to remember. And the world was there, outside, waiting. There were people, there was work, there was life. Real, messy, noisy life, and she was part of that life. "I have to go," she said. Words came out with difficulty, but clear, decisive. The man nodded, slowly, once, twice. He'd understood. He'd been waiting anyway. He knew. "I knew," he said, "but I had to ask, because the choice is yours, always yours." "What about you? What will you do?" The man looked at the tree, old, wide, strong tree, branches curved upward, reaching to the sky. Like seeking or surrender. I'll stay. A little longer. Maybe forever. Because here is my home, my place. But you must go. Because your place is outside, in the world, with people, with life. But I'll forget the garden. No, you won't forget, because the garden is inside you now. Everything you saw, everything you felt, inside you. Memories with you. Forever. She took out the leaf from her pocket. White, wet, still fresh. It rested in her fingers. Light. Almost nothing. But real. She took out the ring. Gold, darkened but shining. Heavy. Heavy in her hand. The weight of all those unspoken words. What should I do with these? Leave them, here, in the garden. Because they're the garden's, not yours. You only found them. But you don't own them. No one owns them. Memories are free. They go, come, stay, go, but never belong to anyone. She left the leaf in the basin, reached out her hand. Fingers opened. The leaf fell, slowly. Hung in the air for a moment, then touched the water. Ripples formed. Small, regular ripples. The leaf floated, spinning, slowly, moving away. From the center, toward the edge. She left the ring in the earth. At the tree's base, she knelt. The earth was soft. Her fingers entered. She dug, opened a small hole, put the ring, covered it. Earth mixed. The ring disappeared, slowly, as if the earth were swallowing it, willingly, gently. Now her hands were empty, palms open, completely empty, lines visible, Lifelines, fate lines. What did they mean? She didn't know. Maybe nothing, but light, very light, as if she had wings, as if she could fly. She stood up. The man stood too, slow, with difficulty, trembling, knees bent, then straightened, back straightened. For a moment he stood upright, then leaned forward again. "Let's go," the man said. "To the gate." They walked, one last time, through the garden, among the trees, past the flowers. Everything was silent, calm, peaceful. No bird sound, no wind sound, only footsteps. 2 pairs of footsteps, on gravel, on earth, on stone. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Rhythm, slow rhythm, sleep rhythm. She saw the gate, green gate, still open, 1/2 meter. Light seeping from outside. Cold, blue, real light. She stopped at the gate, stood at the threshold. 1 foot inside, 1 foot outside, between both. She turned around, looked at the garden one last time. It was beautiful, very beautiful. Trees, flowers, fountain, pool, bench, all there, peaceful, infinite, waiting. Would always wait. She looked at the man. He was smiling, tired but happy, as if freed from a burden. Shoulders had lightened, eyes had cleared for a moment. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome, signorina. Come again, if you want. The gate is always here. The key is always with you. But the key wasn't there anymore. Not in her hand, not in her pocket. When had she lost it? Where had she left it? She didn't know. Maybe it never existed. Maybe a key wasn't needed. Maybe the garden opened when it wanted, for who wanted, who sought, who found. She crossed the threshold, foot lifted, from inside, stepped, outside, on stone, cold hit, damp hit, reality hit, Venice, narrow alley, marble walls, evening darkness. She turned around. The man stood at the gate's threshold. He waved lightly. Fingers moved. Then he stepped back into shadows, into the garden, into his home. The gate closed, slow, silent, soft. Wood rubbed against wood, made no sound, just moved. Closed. Click. Lock. Locked itself. She touched the gate. Wood was cold. Paint had peeled. It was an old gate, 100 years old. Forgotten, but real. Was the garden real? She didn't know. But did it matter? She walked from the alley, outside, to light, to people, to life. Life there, continuing, silently, calm, peaceful. And this, enough, only this, enough.